योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोतं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि। आबाहुपुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रासिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिम्।
Good to see you again in today's episode. Hope you've been finding the information so far useful and that it has been improvising your practice. In today's episode, we will see another back extension, Urdhvamukha Svanasana. All back bends are not natural postures that you assume during the normal course of a day, and hence it's particularly important to pay attention to back bends and invite them in your practice. That extension of the back is very important. We will proceed in today's episode to see how Urdhvamukha Svanasana must be done. We will now show you how to do Urdhvamukha Svanasana. We start from the prone position, as in where the practitioner lies on his stomach. Here, the feet in Urdhvamukha Svanasana can be kept in two ways. One is like this, where the feet are pointing backward, and the other where the toes are curled inward and the heels are extending backward. In a way, the heel is over the toe. Through our Urdhvamukha Svanasana segment, we will use this position of the legs because this is easier and more suitable for a beginner to practice than with the feet extended backwards. Now, going into the pose and first starting with the feet relaxed, the practitioner goes into the prone position and stays like this with the forehead rested on the ground. Here, we will first set the bottom half of the body and then the top half of the body. But before we start, the practitioner must get the palms and keep the hands by the sides of the chest, in such a way that to start with, the thumb is in line with the chest or the bottom breast region. Having said this, you see that the shoulder is well drawn back, but then the practitioner holds this position for now. We will first address the bottom half. Now, as you can see, the toes are pointed backward, but furthermore, as if the toe nails are scraping back, the practitioner must extend the entire feet long and backward. When this extension happens, the entire length of the leg muscles learn to lengthen. So, scraping the toenails, first the practitioner must learn to lengthen the feet away. Once that is done, because the nature of the position is such that the buttocks come up and the lumbar sinks down, it is important to look at the buttock area just as much as the chest area. The reason is, just like the tailbone curls out or the structure of the spine is out at the tailbone, it is also out at the dorsal. So, both the chest and the tailbone area must be worked inward. So, here then the practitioner should suck the tailbone as well as the buttock towards the ground. Then, lifting one leg a few inches off the ground, you then have to lengthen the entire thigh as if the thigh was being pulled through the toe. With that leg stretching up, the buttock has to be first pushed into the ground, rolled away from the sacrum, and then rolling the buttock away from the sacrum, pushing the buttock down, the leg has to release long and down. So, as you can see here very marginally, this buttock is lower and more spread than this buttock. Then, coming to the other side, once again, you will have to lift the leg up a few inches, pull the quadricep through the toe tips, Then rolling the heel out, rolling the buttock away from the sacrum. You have to press the buttock down, buttock bone towards the groin in front, and then place the leg down. In this position, both sides of the buttock bone, more importantly, the tailbone and sacrum must be engaged in front towards the pubis. Thighs must spread center to side, and then the entire musculature of the leg should extend. Otherwise, the thigh muscle will collect near the groin and impede movement. So the leg muscle should be stretched away long. From here, coming to the top half, as we earlier mentioned, the palms are kept by the sides of the chest to start with. Then the palms are further moved back in line with the floating ribs. As I am showing you, the floating rib exists on the side, and it's the last set of ribs in the rib cage. So then the practitioner moves the palm a little down. Then as you press the palm, you realize that the shoulder is willing to come up. That is, the slouching tendency is reversed. I'll show you the opposite. When you take your palms in front, the shoulder has a tendency to stoop. When you take your palms in line with the floating rib and press the base of the palm, the shoulder reacts in a way that it comes up and the hunch of the body is naturally removed. Here, rather than flaring the elbows have to be knit towards each other, taking the shoulder deep and back. Here you can see the length of the neck versus the previous position where the length of the neck shortens. And that's another reason why the palm has to be pressed, shoulder has to be lifted, elbow has to be knit towards each other in a way that the shoulder is lifted so that the length of the neck can be realized. From here, the feet have to be curled in such a way that the toes walk in, one leg after the other. The more the toes walk in, the more the heel is extended and the tendons of the leg remain active and strong. In this position, the thighs have to be lifted off the ground, but the tailbone has to be kept in. This is a very important preparation for Urdhvamukha Svanasana, because in this position, the thighs are already lifted, the shoulder is already lifted, it's only the abdomen that's on the ground. So pressing, you will have to come up with an inhalation and raise the chest up. Upon the lifted thigh, the shoulder has to be taken deep back, the chest has to be lifted. It's okay to take a few steps with the feet forward to sharply bring the tailbone in, upon which the sides of the body are long, wrist is firmly pressed, shoulders are wide with the collarbone. Lifting the chest up, placing the chest far and up, the practitioner can then go back down and relax the way he started, with the abdomen down on the ground, feet relaxed, hands by the side, and forehead turned to one side. The hands may either be like this, or you may fold the hands this way and then keep the head turning this side a few minutes, turning the other way a few seconds. This is Urdhvamukha Svanasana. Now, as you noticed, this Urdhvamukha Svanasana, we started from the prone position off the ground. But then, for practitioners who are not able to lift from the ground, we can also mobilize the pose from Adhomukha Svanasana going into Urdhvamukha Svanasana. We will show you how to do it now. So, from this position, the practitioner comes on all fours and then raises up to Adhomukha Svanasana with the hip pronounced deep back. So here, the distance between the palm and the feet must be accurately chosen. The hip must extend upward. As you know, in Urdhvamukha Svanasana, there should be a substantial opening of the chest. So the dorsal spine must be taken deep in. Thighs, as you know, in Urdhvamukha Svanasana is lifted off the ground. So here itself, the thighs must be taken deep back. These prerequisites must also already be set in Adhomukha Svanasana. From there, the practitioner should move forward in a way the hip the chest is taken forward and goes swooping up, and then the hip is brought forward such that the shoulder curls back and the tailbone takes a deep frontal position. Here, with the chest open and sternum up, the practitioner can then go back to Urdhvamukha Svanasana and then come forward in Urdhvamukha Svanasana, repeating several such cycles to mobilize the spine accordingly. So taking the hip forward, widening the shoulder, rolling the arms in such a way that the bicep turns out, raising the chest up, once again Urdhvamukha Svanasana, and then coming forward into Urdhvamukha Svanasana. Finishing the last cycle, the practitioner can then rest in the prone position as suggested earlier. Now we will be talking about some prop variations that can be useful in the practice of Urdhvamukha Svanasana. Many practitioners, when they come up in Urdhvamukha Svanasana, can you come up? Many of them find it hard to lift the chest, and therefore the shoulders start hitching up towards the neck. The chest itself sinks, and then this is the position that you'll commonly see where the neck length is absolutely lost, cervical neck is suffocated, the chest is sunk, and then the engagement of the dorsal is really poor. This pose suffers in alignment. We'll show you how to reverse it using two blocks. Here, where the palms are originally placed, we use two blocks, one for the right palm and one for the left palm, and you see the minute you use palms, the shoulder even pulls back more, giving the neck even more space than it had initially. Then you have to take your dorsal spine deep in towards your sternum, rolling your feet in and raising your thighs up. You then come up in Urdhvamukha Svanasana, where this lift, this brick, gives an additional capacity to really lift the chest up, explosively take the dorsal in, roll the chest expansively wide, and take the tailbone deep forward. And therefore, this brick gives that additional space for the cervical neck to raise freely and the sternum to stay lifted. This is one of the pivotal arrangements for Urdhvamukha Svanasana. We are now showing another variation of Urdhvamukha Svanasana in which a chair is being used. For people who find it difficult to get up from the ground or don't have enough wrist strength to be able to raise off the ground, the chair variation will be useful. Here, a practitioner puts the chair against the wall such that the seat of the chair faces forward. Because a chair is a readily available household prop, it's easy for everybody to practice with as well. Now, moving into how the prop may be used, the practitioner first bends, catches hold of the sides of the chair, and then rests the thigh against the top thigh. So this is the top thigh. You rest the top thigh against the seat of the chair. The minute you rest the top thigh, as you can see the incline, the middle and lower thigh, the knee end of the thigh is back, and the hip is really brought forward to mobilize the sacrum and tailbone. So here, the hip is taken well forward, and then like the leg position, foot position of Urdhvamukha Svanasana, the toes are curled in and then the heels are extended. Here, holding the sides of the chair, the practitioner has to grip the chair in such a way that the dorsal spine can be taken deeply in, shoulders can be rolled back, and the sternum can be lifted up. Now with that, gripping the chair, the practitioner then proceeds to push the back ribs in, raise the sternum up in such a way that the entire spine is mobilized forward and then upward. The meaning of the coiling action, where the back ribs come in and the frontal ribs raise up, can be clearly seen. The entire spine is uniformly engaged. From there, the practitioner can then place the palm against the backrest of the chair, and the palm can be used to push and lift the chest up. Push and lift the chest up. Finishing that, you then come, once again grip the chair and slowly come back to the previous position where you lift the thighs off the chair. In this manner, a chair can be used for Urdhvamukha Svanasana. Now we will show you the third section on how to use props for Urdhvamukha Svanasana. Here we are using ropes. The entire segment of yoga where we use ropes for asanas is called Yoga Kurunta. Kurunta means a puppet, and just like a puppet functions using a rope, we as practitioners use ropes to then make asanas refined and further progress. Now, using a rope wall, we will show you how Urdhvamukha Svanasana can be done. But at the same time, this procedure of using ropes is commonly beneficial to all back bends as well as all positions where a hunch needs to be removed or a concave back position needs to be established or the entire length of the spine needs to be mobilized. So, here you have a practitioner standing between two hooks. Then she takes one rope in one hand and the other rope in the other, such that using the knot of the rope around the palm, the entire fingers wrap around the rope. Then you step forward to a halfway position. By a halfway position, we mean that position where the elbow is still a little bent. Here, using the hold of the rope, one must really roll the shoulders back, widening the collarbones, raising the chest and prominently using the rib cage, mobilizing it inwards. From there, bending the knee and gently releasing the weight forward. Here you should be cautious that you're not falling forward. The practitioner still remains with the knees bent. So here you've just fallen forward and then rolling the shoulders back, sharply taking the back ribs in. You have to raise the sternum up. As the back ribs come in and the sternum anterior spine raises up, it must cause the knees to straighten. It's really not about hitting the knees straight. It's about how to awaken the length of the spine in a way that the knees can straighten. Once that happens, you then have to take the tailbone deep in such that from the tailbone, the sacrum, lumbar, dorsal, cervical, all of it is lengthening forward and then upward. The sides of the navel must stand tall, the anterior throat must then extend, and the practitioner must look forward and upward. As you saw in Urdhvamukha Svanasana, it's difficult to roll the shoulders back, but this training gives the mobility for the shoulder to roll back, mobility for the chest to raise up, ribs to engage as well as the tailbone to engage. As you see, the practitioner is using two ropes on two hooks. Finishing this, you bend, come back to a standing position and then release the ropes. In the next variation, the practitioner will use two ropes of the same hook. That is, in the previous segment, it was one rope of each hook. Now there are two ropes of the same hook. Again, starting with the position where the palm wraps around the knot and then stepping forward, you go to the position where you're bending the knees, gently releasing the weight, opening the chest, taking the back ribs in. You have to make sure that that armpit is driven forward. Then raising the chest anteriorly upward, at the same time bringing the tailbone in. The sides of the navel must be sharp, the sides of the body must be lifted, and the entire length of the spine should be bow-like, sharply lifting. As you can see, when two ropes come off the same hook, it requires the shoulder blade to contract so that the chest can be opened. Hence, this is a little more advanced than using two ropes of two different hooks. Then, gently releasing, the practitioner bends the knee and goes back to standing position. We now saw two variations where ropes of two hooks were used and then two ropes from a single hook was used. As mentioned, in the first one, the span of the shoulder is wider. In the second one, the contraction of the shoulder blade, which is a very critical movement for concave back position, is established. Now we'll talk about range of movement. Consider the practitioner being farther away from the rope, that is, step a little more forward. Then when the practitioner bends the knee, gently releases the chest forward and then raising the chest up. Raising the chest up when you go to the final position where you attempt to take the tailbone in and raise the chest up, anterior spine up nicely. As you can see in this pose, it is chest centric. The most prominent opening that you have is at the chest level. Now, when the practitioner then steps back, I'd like you to watch the engagement of the tailbone as well. When the practitioner steps back and then gently opens into the pose, unfolds the spine, elevates the spine anteriorly, you can see the chest is open, but here even the bottom ribs have become open and the tailbone has come in more. Now going to the final pose where the legs go all the way to the wall. Firstly, design wise, you can see how the bow-like shape is very similar to Urdhvamukha Svanasana. Here, not only is the chest open, not only is the rib cage lifted, but also keeping the thighs up, one can take the tailbone deep inside. In this manner, when you progress towards the wall, more of the spine becomes engaged. Therefore, Yoga Kurunta offers an option by which a practitioner can constantly progress and choose locations or areas of the body that you want to work with and specifically raise the awareness of. We now saw how to do the classical pose Urdhvamukha Svanasana as well as prop assisted variations. We saw 3 variations today where blocks were kept for the palms, a chair was used for Urdhvamukha Svanasana and the rope was used as in Yoga Kurunta. These 3 offer various benefits which we will now discuss. When we press our palms on a block, it helps release the shoulders backward and extend the cervical neck. This cures a person of shoulder problems as well as cervical neck issues. It provides the length for the cervical neck which largely remain crushed these days or compressed because of lifestyle changes. For example, when you look at a computer, when you look at your phone, when you ride a bike, you always look down and crush the anterior throat. Whereas in Urdhvamukha Svanasana, because the anterior throat is well extended, it reverses such compression. Now, when we use a chair for Urdhvamukha Svanasana, it helps mobilize the entire length of the spine, bringing the tailbone inside and sharply raising the spine in great length. A rope, as we saw, can be used at various levels to concentrate specifically, zooming into various lengths of the spine as well as different parts of the body such as the buttocks, armpit, sternum, chest, tailbone, etc. and also provides a good movement for the shoulder. The range of the shoulder is also increased. In this manner, props can be used to benefit various conditions. A note about back bends itself. Usually with all asanas, we look forward, as in a forward extension, we look forward, in a standing pose, we look forward, and so our eye is always leading us in our practice. Whereas in a back bend, we are extending backward. We move to a position where our eye is in a known position forward and then lifts upward and takes us to a zone that is unknown, as in the back. Usually all asanas are done looking forward, and so it's a very familiar territory, whereas what is common to back bends is that we go from a known area to an unknown area. We travel from the known to the unknown. Usually This instills a lot of courage in a practitioner and then cures a practitioner of depression as well, because the entire aspect of moving from a known area to an unknown area is an aspect that instills a lot of courage and confidence. For all these reasons, backbends must be regularly practiced.
Mm-hmm.